Hello there, Ray here, and what you see behind me is an easy to understand and use pigment portal farm. This thing is great for getting tons of gold as well as XPs all automatically or while you're AFK. This farm is quite simple. As you can see, there's just some big portals and a drop chute for the pigment to die, just a small amount of redstone, and a bubble elevator to send the XPs back up to the player. That is all there really is to this entire thing. This farm is great as it allows you to get XPs as well as loot even when other players are online, as the pigment will constantly be spawning in no matter if other people are holding up the mob cap by having mobs spawning in caves around them. This makes this farm excellent for multiplayer, especially if you're going to AFK over the night and you don't want to worry about your farm stopping midway just because somebody has loaded some unlit areas. You can just come on over here, AFK right here, and you'll get tons of XPs as well as gold ingots and gold nuggets and some rotten flesh without having to do any work at all. Now, I've designed quite a few different type of pigment portal farms over the years, including my infinitely automatic snowball farm, and we even use these to catch those extremely rare mobs on the Protech SMP server. But we specifically designed this one to be easy to understand as well as to use in your very own survival world. Not only gold ingots as well as nuggets are useful for crafting a wide range of things, you can also take the ingots and barter with piglins and get a wide range of very useful items. These being soul sand, crying obsidian, nether brick, leather, gravel, fire charge, string, ender pearl, magma cream, glowstone dust, nether quartz, potion of fire resistance, iron nuggets, iron boots with the soul speed enchantment, as well as enchanted books with soul speed, which is pretty crazy that you can get so much just from one little item. And I went into way more detail on how this all works in the piglin bartering video, which I have linked down below for you. If you guys do enjoy simple farms like this, I have an entire playlist which you can find down below where I have over 100 videos showcasing simple machines as well as farms that you can apply to your Minecraft world. And guys, remember to go ahead and subscribe, as currently less than 30% of you guys have taken the time just to hit the button. So go ahead and do it right now. You won't regret it, as I make tons of simple and easy to understand farms, and I have many more I would like to show you for 1.16. And if everybody who watched my video actually subscribed, I would have over 12 million subscribers today. And the great thing about this farm, don't matter how much obsidian you have, you can start out with just putting in one portal, and you can eventually work your way up to owning enough obsidian to finish out this entire farm. And this is because the zombified piglins, which are what they call the pigmen now in 1.16, actually will drop ingots of gold. And you can use these to go ahead and trade with piglins, which are a new mob in 1.16, which will give you obsidian randomly when traded. Because of this, you can over time get enough obsidian off of the gold that is produced from the farm to make more and more portals, which will actually speed up the farm until you can eventually get the full size. Now, another option you have is using my new 1.16 AFK obsidian farm, which produces over 32,000 obsidian per hour, which can easily get enough obsidian to do this project here. Or you can go with my faster design, which produces 90,000 obsidian per hour. Now, the way that this farm works is it uses really large nether portals. And when the player is nearby these portals, there's a chance that a zombified piglin will spawn inside of them. The more portal blocks you have, the more of these guys you'll have spawning in. I built up some max size nether portals, which are 21 by 21 worth of portals, and I put two side by side so they're sharing this edge here, which allows them to not waste as much obsidian. And I have this on both sides as well as make it as deep as you need. Now, there's an automatic mode as well as an AFK mode. So automatic mode is where the pigmen come in by themselves and just fall down to their death, with no player needed to be AFKing in the center. And this is what's going on right now. If we go ahead and spectate in here, you can see any pigmen that are inside of here are making their way over this direction, walking through here, and eventually falling down this hole right here to their death. What they're trying to do is go after this turtle egg, which you can see from a pretty good distance, and they're attracted towards, and they're going to try to come over here and smash it. But while making the way over here, they end up actually falling down this hole here. At the very bottom, we have a spot where they just hit the ground and drop off their loot. This will produce gold nuggets as well as rotten flesh. And with this mode, you don't actually need this redstone device here to run it. Now, the second mode is the AFK mode, which you would want this little clock to be on. It's a very simple little redstone clock going in circles. And for this mode, the player would be AFKing right up here, and you'd be in survival, and this will make them mad if you hit them with like a snowball, and this will allow them to run towards the center and drop to their death. Now the benefit of this is that they will die as a player kill, meaning that they'll have a small chance of producing a gold ingot upon dying. And they'll also drop XPs, and XPs will come up here in this bubble elevator. With the AFK mode, you'll get 3,200 items per hour, an equivalent around 25 gold blocks per hour. You also get level 15 worth of XPs every 1 minute. Plus you'll get that rotten flesh as well as gold swords, which you could have smelted down for more gold nuggets, making this a great way to get gold as well as XPs without having to worry about players on your server holding up the mob cap. Now if you decide to go with just the automatic mode where they come in by themselves, it does produce a little bit less gold per hour because they no longer have that chance of dropping the ingots. You'll get equivalent about 18 gold blocks per hour. Now we did quite a bit of testing during our snapshot streams, which were every Wednesday, where we get out to the world with the newest Minecraft snapshot with the viewers, and we designed up cool things like this. And we actually designed this one during one of those streams, so if you guys ever want to take part in future builds like this, make sure to join the stream. You can find my Twitch link in the description. Thanks everyone who joined us. You guys had a lot of great inputs on how to make this simple and very useful for everyone who plays a wide variety of Minecraft styles. Keeping that in mind, we made everything very easy to build as well as easy to use. The hardest thing about building this up is probably just getting the obsidian, which I did mention a couple different ways to obtain it. I would definitely recommend using those automated ways rather than mining it by hand. Now all this is possible just because nether portals can spawn in pigmen. Now they do this using random ticks, which on average will produce one random ticks in a 16 by 16 by 16 block area every 68 seconds. So each time a portal block gets one of these ticks, it will produce a pigment and then it will set it down to the lowest block that's underneath of the portal, so place it down here. And the amount of times that it will produce a pigment is equal to the difficulty. So from easy difficulty to normal difficulty, they will produce twice as many pigment, and hard will produce 3 times as many as easy. So if you want this to work great, make sure you have your difficulty set to hard. Now zombified piglins can find these turtle eggs up to 24 blocks away. So if you're going for the automatic mode, you're kind of limited to how far out they will be able to walk towards this egg here. This is why I have these portals about 21 blocks wide or deep. That way the distance from this egg out all the way to the very edge of here is right around 24 blocks. And it is a square area, so pigments that even spawn in this corner way over here will be able to trek all the way across here and get to the egg. It doesn't matter how fast or slow the pigmen move because their spawns aren't limited to the number of pigmen that are currently alive. And they will come across this little obstacle course here and try to pathfind through these trapdoors as they see them as being an open way to get to the egg. But instead they will end up flying themselves up against the side and falling down here to their death. Now we want to make this as simple as possible for players to build up, so we went with a single drop chute for these guys. So pigmen from all 4 portals were going to fall down one single hole. This makes it really easy to collect the items as well as collect the XPs for the AFK mode. Now before they make their way down here, they do have to kind of go across these soul fires, and you can build this in 1.15 and just use normal fire if you want to. The soul fire actually does more damage than normal fire, and because of that, any pigment jockeys, which are baby pigmen riding on top of chickens that can spawn inside these portals, those will die before making it down to the drop chute. As when a chicken jockey falls down a drop chute, they fall very slowly and don't take any fall damage when they hit the bottom. Because of this, we have to kill them prior to them falling down there. And we can easily do this with some fire. Because the pigman riding on top will try to pathfind to either the egg or the player, he won't really care about going through the fire, and he'll kill the chicken off while he's doing this. Now, the way you get soul fire is just by having either soul sand or soul soil, and then just putting some fire on top of it with flint and steel. I'll turn blue. The reason why we have campfires here is it allows these guys to easily pathfind up over top of this stuff and get over here to where the eggs are. Now you can see, since because we have pigmen coming in from both sides, we don't want them to collide in the center, which would stop them from actually falling down the hole. Because of this, we make this side walk up a little ways so they can align themselves with these trapdoors, and we make this side stay kind of low so they can align themselves with this side here. And because of this, we can have guys coming from both sides without interfering with each other. And both sets of pigmen are trying to go after the egg, which is this one little egg over here. Now if you're wondering how to get turtle eggs, I did a different video covering that, and I'll also link it down below. And we do have to drop these guys a pretty good distance before they'll die. Over 24 blocks. I think I went about 32 blocks just for extra fall damage, as sometimes the chicken jockeys can kind of make it all the way to the center before their chicken actually burns up. So then the pigman might be about right here by the time he starts falling. By lowering a little extra, you just make sure you never get any pigment down here. And that's why we also have some magma block down here in case a chicken would make it down, but I've never seen one actually do that. And down here we have a hopper minecart picking up the loot through this block while it's on top of the rail, and then the items are being pulled out of that hopper minecart into the hopper and into the chest. Everything else here is made for the AFK mode, where you get the XP as well as a chance at getting the gold ingots. So that mode works a little bit differently because the player does have to be standing up here on top of this trapdoor in order for it to work. You will have to be in survival mode, and the pigmen will have to be aggroed towards you. And you can start this by just throwing a snowball at them. And what we have is some satellite pigmen on either side, which will constantly re-aggro all the pigmen in the area and send them running towards you while also being mad at you. So when they do die, they have that chance of the ingots as well as giving the XPs and other cool stuff like golden swords, which could be enchanted. Now we did a lot of testing to do with the satellite pigments and finding the perfect location in order to place them. Big thanks to Cheater Codes who looked into the Minecraft code on how these guys actually distribute their aggro over other pigmen in the area. Because of this, we found some really interesting stuff on how to constantly keep the pigmen aggroed without worrying about them ever losing aggro. So this guy is one of the satellite pigmen, sitting on a block 40 blocks away from the player. The way that pigmen aggro range works is that he will aggro out 35 blocks plus or minus an average of 2 blocks. So around 37 blocks will he be able to tell other pigmen in a square area around him that there is somebody over here, the player, who they should go after and attack. Now because the player is 40 blocks away from that guy, he is unable to actually be satisfied by being in the range to attack the player. Because of this, he'll be in a constant state of telling his buddies in the area that there is somebody that they should attack, while never being able to actually attack the player. And because he can aggro out 35 blocks plus or minus 2, he can reach all the guys across all this side of the portal, all the way into these corners, all the way over here as well. And the guy on the opposite side can reach this whole side over here. Not only that, every time they get one of these guys mad inside of here, these guys can tell any other guys within this range that there is somebody over here to attack. The only thing that we need to make sure is that they can see the player. As long as they can see the player, they will inform other pigmen of where the player is located at, and other pigmen don't even have to see him. So you don't have to worry about them having a line of sight to see the player. And this is why we have this guy out 40 blocks, because it is farther than the average of about 38 blocks which these guys can aggro outwards with. Now there is a really weird thing to do with pigmen which could break the system. If you have a difficulty that is over 0.66, which you can find right here. This is a difficulty. We're currently at 0.34, but if it's over 0.66, then there is a chance that pigmen can actually aggro out extremely far. Now it's very unlikely for your difficulty to be over this. So on average, you want to make sure the pigman is 40 blocks away from the player. But if there was a rare chance that your difficulty was over this, the game can do some really weird stuff where the pigmen have an extremely rare chance of reaching very far out, like 100 blocks out. And if they can reach 100 blocks off, then they can actually be within range of the player, and therefore they won't constantly tell their buddies to be mad at the player because they're already within range of the player and they feel like they can just attack them themselves. They won't keep them in this constant aggro. And if this does occur, your satellite pigman could break. But this is extremely rare to occur, especially as most time your difficulty will never get over this. So just keep this in mind when you are choosing a satellite pigman. As long as you choose a pigman that spawned in a period where the difficulty was under this number of 0.66, you don't have to worry about this at all. Also thanks to Johnny595 who did all the math behind it. It came out some really cool figures on how rare it would be to find the pigman who can actually detect players the farthest. Maybe we'll go into that in a future video. There's also some other strange behavior to do with the pigman. Like how it starts measuring how far out to check for other pigmen, actually measures it from the southeast corner of the pigmen hitbox, even though the mob location is the actual center of the mob's feet. Now we want to make sure this guy doesn't despawn, so we gave him a sword that is different than the one he had, and he actually picked it up, meaning he won't despawn. Otherwise, you could give him a name tag so it doesn't despawn, or some armor. Same thing goes for this guy. He's the same distance away from the player. He's also holding an item so he doesn't despawn. And these pigmen will re-aggro if the player has ever aggroed them in the past. So if I come back over here after being in creative and we go back into survival, the guys will re-aggro and make these guys mad once again. And those guys are important so that they make it so every new pigman that spawns in will be mad towards the player. Otherwise, they'll only be mad until they die. And then any new ones that spawn in won't be mad, and you won't get the XPs or the chance at a gold ingot. If you're ever having trouble making those guys tell the other guys to get mad, you can always come in here and just hit these guys with a snowball to make them mad again. Or you can like hop in and out of portal, going into creative and survival again will also make them re-aggro, or leaving the chunks and coming back again without getting too close to them will also allow it to keep it so that they'll constantly re-aggro. Things to keep in mind if you ever have trouble with it. Now the aggro guys will also fall down the hole here, but when they hit the ground they will also drop that XP as well as extra loot, so make sure you have plenty of room in your chest to take in like swords and stuff like that. And you can put an item sorter down here like I did with my quick gold farm. You can also smelt up the swords if you want to get rid of them, or just make a non-stackable item sorter to sort them away from the rest of your loot. Now with the XPs, we want to make sure that they get put back up near the player so we can pick them back up again. So I got my alt account to AFK here so you guys can kind of see what happens when they're mad. They're all going to run towards the center, drop down here. And if we turn on F3 plus B, we can see the hitboxes of the XPs. They're quite large, but what we have is this clock over here, which is a slow pulse going in a circle, and just extending and retracting this piston with a trapdoor in it, which pushes the XPs over here into this water. Now the items are getting picked up by the hopper minecart. We also got some hoppers over here in case they fall on top of this trapdoor. And if they happen to fall over here, we have some hoppers which can pick up any items before they get washed away by the water. Everything else here is for the transportation of the XPs. They get pushed over here into the water. The water is flowing and pushes them over here. They go across this ice and they go into this bubble elevator. This is soul sand on the bottom, which makes bubbles and pushes them upwards. Now they don't move extremely fast like items, but they do move a little bit faster in a bubble elevator than they do in normal water. Because of this, they'll eventually make their way all the way up to the player. You can see that they don't have to be very close to the player. They will move quite a distance in order to be taken in by the player. So we got about 4 blocks and they can easily reach that to get to the player. Once in a while you get pigman that falls down and kind of dies on the side, and his XPs will clip into the edges. This is why we have these water streams on either side. This way XPs that kind of get stuck in this block where my head is right now will be able to get pushed out over here, and these water streams will push it towards the center and then they flow over here. Once in a while XP could fall into the little indent in the hopper, but you can see how the water allows it to float back up out of it and then eventually make it on its way. Another problem that we ran into was that the XPs would sit on the very edge of this ice block here. Kind of a weird bug that's been in the game for ever since water elevators were added. An easy fix to this is just to create a current on the backside, which kind of pulls any items that are stuck there over to the other side. We also got a gate in here that is tall enough so that any XPs that do come over here won't be able to make their way into this little water gap over here. Now if there was items could fall over there, but we already sorted our items all out and XPs are too big in order to get over there. This way we can easily transport all the XPs over and up to the player without losing any of them. Very rarely will you get one XP to kind of get stuck inside this trapdoor, but pretty much any other XP that gets stuck around here will make its way out when it gets pushed. Now, the reason why we have the trapdoor here is so that we can push the XPs out without the piston head itself being over here, because if the pigman would land on the piston head, there's a chance of their XPs getting glitched in these upper glass pieces, which makes it a lot harder to get them out. By having a low profile trapdoor here, we can expect all the glitched XPs to get stuck in these lower blocks, which we can easily push out. So it's a cool system that we designed. We're easily able to transport the XPs all the way up to the player without having to use any overly complicated elevators. Now one thing we did do up here is we did put some trap doors in the top as well as the side here, just to prevent the XPs from shooting up or anything else from shooting up in the water. If you would happen to get a baby pigman in here, this would also prevent him from escaping and coming over here and attacking the player. This makes a great way to get some passive XPs while doing other things, so it's like a hands-free XP source. And don't forget guys to share this farm with your favorite Minecrafters so they can learn about this great way to obtain tons of XPs as well as gold while never having to worry about the mob cap. I had a lot of fun designing this farm with you guys, the viewers, as well as other technical Minecraft players that join us during these snapshot streams. It's really cool to see all the technical members come together and work on cool stuff like this. And if you guys would like to build this up in your very own world, make sure to check out the link in the description, which I provide the world download so you can see exactly how to build this. Notice how I built this in an ocean way above the water. This is just so that you don't have to worry about loading any other mobs, being water mobs, hostile mobs, or bats or anything like that. None of that will spawn down here. So less lag when you're running this. Now you can build this wherever you want, but the problem is you need to make sure that the player is within range so that these chunks are random tick. Now the way that the game random ticks areas in order for stuff like portal blocks can produce pigmen is that it will make a cylinder around the player with a radius of 8 chunks out. It does snap to chunks, but everything in this area will be random tick. So you can be working above or below this and even off to the sides. As long as you're within 8 chunks of this, a chunk being 16 blocks, you'll be just fine in automatically allowing these guys to fall down the hole and provide you gold. So you put this in kind of a popular area where players are hanging around, it will constantly produce you gold. The player does have to be nearby. It won't run like automatically inside spawn chunks. Now you don't have to worry about the pigmen actually being teleported by the portal blocks because they will only teleport if they leave the entire portal area for 15 seconds and then re-enter it, which doesn't occur in this farm. I also have a roof above the player. That way we don't have to worry about phantoms spawning in and attacking the player while he's AFK. I also placed some slabs up here just so no mobs would spawn on top when it would turn nighttime. Everything about this farm you can also use in like version 1.15. You just need to switch out the fire to normal fire. Just in 1.16 it's a lot easier to get all this obsidian in order to make the farm. And remember guys, if you'd like to learn about more simple farms like this, check out the playlist down below as well as share this with your favorite Minecrafter and leave a like on the video. All in all, an easy to understand and use pigman farm gets you plenty of XPs as well as gold. I really enjoyed designing this farm and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I'd like to thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!